So the galaxy lived in fear until one human warship changed everything. The Talon Collective ruled the galaxy with an iron grip. Their warships, black as the emptiest parts of space, moved like shadows between the stars. No planet could stand against them. No species dared to fight back. For 300 years, their word was law across thousands of worlds. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the Horizon, Earth's newest exploration vessel. He was a quiet man with steady hands and deep worry lines around his eyes. 20 years in space had taught him caution. The Horizon wasn't built for war. It was made to find new worlds, new resources, new friends among the stars. But it carried Earth's greatest secret, the phase shield. "Admiral, we're picking up weapons fire ahead," said Lieutenant Park. She didn't look up from her screen. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, bringing up visuals on the main display. Kim's breath caught in his throat. A planet burned below them. Green forests turned to ash, blue oceans boiled away, and above it all, 7 black ships hung in formation, pouring destruction downward. "Life signs?" Kim asked. "Billions, sir. Or there were." "Now?" Park's voice trailed off. The numbers on her screen dropped rapidly. The bridge fell silent. The Horizon had left Earth 6 months ago on humanity's first deep space mission. They'd found empty planets, strange ruins, beautiful nebulae. But this was their first contact with alien life, watching one species slaughter another. "Can they detect us?" Kim asked. Commander Han at Tactical shook his head. "Our stealth systems are holding. They don't know we're here." Kim watched another city disappear in flame. The Horizon could slip away, return to Earth with warnings about the dangers waiting in the stars. That would be the safe choice, the smart choice. "Sir?" Park was looking at him now. So was everyone else on the bridge. "What are your orders?" Kim stared at the burning world. He thought about humanity's long, violent history, how they'd nearly destroyed themselves before finally finding peace, how they'd sworn never to stand by while the innocent suffered. "Bring weapons online," he said quietly, "and drop stealth systems." Han looked up sharply. "Sir, we don't know what we're facing. Their technology is being used to murder billions," Kim finished. "I don't need to know more than that." He straightened his uniform jacket. "Lieutenant Park, open all communication channels. Let's introduce ourselves." The Horizon moved forward, small against the vastness of space, tiny compared to the black destroyers. Kim's message was simple. "This is Admiral Kim of the Earth vessel Horizon. Cease your attack on this planet immediately." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, as one, the black ships turned. The first energy blast struck the Horizon dead center. The bridge crew braced for destruction, but instead the phase shield glowed blue, absorbing the impossible power. Another hit, then another. The shield held. "They're scanning us," said Engineer Song from her station. "They seem confused." Of course they were. The phase shield operated on principles humanity had only recently discovered: quantum mechanics that allowed energy weapons to be absorbed rather than deflected. The Horizon wasn't particularly powerful or well-armed. It simply couldn't be destroyed by conventional attacks. "Return fire," Kim ordered. "Targeted strikes only. Engines and weapons systems." The Horizon's modest laser batteries seemed pathetic against the massive black ships, but they fired with perfect accuracy, guided by Han's steady hand. One of the enemy vessels lost propulsion, beginning a slow spin. "They're coordinating," Park warned, "surrounding us." All 7 ships fired at once. The bridge lights flickered. Song called out, "Shield at 60% and holding." Kim allowed himself a small smile. "Again," he ordered. The battle lasted 20 minutes. The Horizon damaged 3 enemy vessels while taking no critical damage itself. Finally, in what seemed like confusion, the black ships broke formation and vanished into faster-than-light travel. "They're retreating," Han said, disbelief in his voice. Kim didn't celebrate. "Park, life signs on the planet?" "Millions, sir. Some survived, mostly in the southern hemisphere where the bombardment hadn't reached." "Open a channel." Kim waited, until Park nodded. "This is Admiral Kim of Earth. We offer assistance and medical aid to survivors. Please respond." The reply came not from the planet but from a small ship that decloaked nearby. A face appeared on screen. Humanoid but with copper skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. "I am Nari of the Alvari Resistance," said the alien. Her voice shook with emotion. "What we just witnessed, it's impossible. The Talon Collective has ruled this sector for centuries. No one fights them. No one survives fighting them." "We didn't know," Kim said simply. "We're new here." Nari made a sound that might have been laughter. "New and either very brave or very foolish." She paused. "The Talons will return with a larger force. They cannot allow word of this to spread." "Then we don't have much time," Kim replied. "Tell us how we can help your people down there, and then perhaps you can tell us everything about these Talons." As medical teams prepared to shuttle down to the surface, Kim looked out at the stars. The horizon had come seeking knowledge and discovery. Instead, they'd found a galaxy living under the shadow of tyranny. And now, without meaning to, they'd given that galaxy something it had lost long ago. Hope. Word of the impossible battle spread quickly. The horizon had been docked above the Alvari homeworld for 3 days, helping survivors and learning about the galaxy they'd stumbled into. Admiral Kim stood in what remained of a coastal city, breathing through a filter mask. The air still smelled of smoke and worse things. "They've controlled this sector for 3 centuries, Nari explained, walking beside him. Her copper skin reflected the dying sunlight. The Talon Collective emerged from the dark nebula with technology no one could match. They conquered their neighbors, then their neighbors' neighbors. My great-grandparents still remembered freedom. My parents never knew it." Kim stepped over a fallen beam. "And no one ever fought back?" "Many tried. All failed." Nari gestured at the ruined city around them. "This is what happens to those who resist. The Talons don't just defeat enemies, they make examples of them." A child ran past, chasing something that looked like a 6-legged lizard. Despite everything, life continued. Kim watched the child disappear around a corner and felt the weight of what the horizon had stumbled into. "Admiral!" Lieutenant Park jogged toward them, portable scanner in hand. "We're picking up multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system." Kim's stomach tightened. "Talons!" Signature matches, 15 vessels. Park's face was grim. "Much larger than the ones we encountered before." Nari made a sound like breaking glass, an Alvari expression of dread. "They've brought a purifier fleet. They'll sterilize the entire planet." Kim activated his comm. "Han, how quickly can you get the horizon ready to move?" Commander Han's voice came through clearly. "We're at full power now, sir. Engineer Song. Completed the shield upgrades an hour ago." "Good. Begin evacuation procedures. Get as many Alvari on board as possible." "Sir?" Han sounded confused. "Our orders were to avoid interference in—" "Our orders didn't account for genocide," Kim said sharply. "We're already involved, now move." The next 6 hours were chaos. The horizon wasn't designed to carry refugees, but they made space wherever they could. The ship's halls filled with frightened Alvari families carrying whatever they could save. On the bridge, Kim watched the tactical display as the Talon fleet formed a blockade around the planet. "They're hailing us," Park announced. Kim nodded. "Put them through." The view screen, filled with the image of a Talon commander. They looked almost human except for their ghostly white skin and eyes with vertical pupils like a cat's. "Unknown vessel," the Talon said in a flat voice. "You have interfered in collective business and damaged Imperial property. Surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded." Kim stood straighter. "This is Admiral Kim of the Earthship Horizon. We witnessed you committing mass murder and intervened, as any civilized people would do." The Talon's expression didn't change. "Earth. We have no record of this world or species. Your ignorance of galactic law is noted but irrelevant. Your technology, however, is of interest. Surrender now, or be destroyed along with this rebel planet." Kim cut the transmission. "How many Alvari have we evacuated?" "Just over 2,000, Park replied. "But there are millions down there, sir. We can't save them all." No, Kim agreed, but we can buy them time to escape. He turned to Han. Status of the phase shields? At maximum capacity, Han replied. Song says the upgrades should hold against anything short of a star going nova. Let's hope she's right. Kim settled into his command chair. Move to intercept the Talon fleet. Position us between them and the planet. The Horizon pulled away from the planet, its engines pushing harder than they were designed for. The massive Talon warships loomed ahead, black against the stars. They're charging weapons, Han reported calmly. Shields to full front. Return, fire only on my command. Kim gripped the arms of his chair. Let's see what they've got. The lead Talon ship fired. A beam of energy so powerful it briefly outshone the system's sun. It struck the Horizon dead on. The bridge shuddered. Lights flickered. But the ship held. Shield status? Kim asked, surprised to find his voice steady. Commander Lee at the science station looked up in amazement. Holding at 83%, the phase shield is working exactly as designed. It's absorbing their energy weapons rather than trying to deflect them. A second blast hit, then a third. The Horizon trembled but remained intact. On screen, they could see the Talon ships adjusting position, clearly confused by their failure to destroy the much smaller vessel. They're scanning us, Lee reported, trying to figure out how we're doing this. Park looked up from her console. Sir, I'm picking up thousands of small ships launching from the planet's surface. The Alvari are evacuating. Kim nodded. That was the idea. How long do we need to hold the Talons here? At least 2 hours for the civilian ships to reach the We. Jump point, Han calculated. Then that's how long we fight. Kim turned to tactical. Now, Commander Han, you may return fire. Target their engines and weapons only. We're not here to slaughter them, just to stop them. The Horizon's modest weapons were nothing compared to the Talon arsenal, but they fired with precision. One Talon ship lost an engine array. Another's main cannon exploded in a shower of white-hot metal. But 15 against 1 were still terrible odds. Even with the phase shield, damage was mounting. Hull breach on Deck 4, Song reported over the comm. Emergency force fields holding. A massive blast rocked the ship, throwing crew members from their stations. Kim picked himself up off the floor, tasting blood where he'd bit his cheek. Status, he demanded. Shields at 30%, Lee replied, working frantically at his station. One more direct hit like that and we're finished. Through the view screen, Kim watched 3 Talon ships move into formation for a coordinated strike. There was nowhere to run. Then, unexpectedly, new signals appeared on the tactical display. 6 ships just dropped out of FTL, Park announced, in disbelief. They're engaging the Talons. The new arrivals were smaller than the Talon warships but moved with incredible speed and precision. They darted between the larger vessels, firing at crucial systems before dancing away. We're being hailed, Park said. The screen showed a blue-skinned humanoid with ridged features and eyes that shimmered like opals. Horizon, this is Captain Jin of the Keth Alliance, the alien said. Nari sent word of what you did. We thought her story was too incredible to believe, but he gestured at the battling ships. It seems the impossible has happened. Someone finally stood up to the Talons and survived. We appreciate the assistance, Kim said, but we're badly damaged. Jin nodded. Fall back. We'll cover you. The Alvari civilian fleet needs escort to safe harbor anyway. As the Horizon limped away from the battle, Kim watched the tactical display, in wonder. More ships were arriving, vessels of different designs and origins all fighting alongside the Keth against the Talons. What's happening? He asked quietly. Commander Lee looked up from his readings. I believe, Admiral, that we just witnessed the beginning of a revolution. In the ship's crowded medical bay, Kim found Nari helping with the Alvari refugees. She looked at him with all 4 eyes wide. You don't understand what you've done, she said softly. For 3 centuries, the galaxy lived in fear. No one dared to imagine fighting back. But you, one ship, one crew who didn't know it was impossible, you changed everything. Kim looked around at the faces watching him, alien yet so familiar in their hope and fear. "We didn't come looking for a war," he said. "No," Nari agreed. "But perhaps you brought something much more valuable." She placed a four-fingered hand on his arm. "You brought belief." The horizon limped to the hidden Keth outpost, nestled within an asteroid field orbiting a dying red star. Engineer Song worked day and night to repair the damage from the battle, while the crew adjusted to their unexpected role as symbols of resistance. Lieutenant Park stood in the makeshift training room, watching aliens from 6 different species attempt the combat maneuvers she just demonstrated. Their bodies moved differently, some had extra limbs, others unusual joints, but they all shared the same determined look. "Again," she ordered, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Remember, the Talons rely on overwhelming force. They've never needed to adapt. That's their weakness." A tall mantis-like Vosian raised a limb. "But how can your species know this? You just arrived in this part of the galaxy." Park exchanged glances with Commander Han, who leaned against the wall watching the training. "Humans have fought each other for most of our history," Han said quietly. "We nearly destroyed ourselves several times before we learned better. But that history taught us something valuable: how to think like underdogs." Admiral Kim entered the room, followed by leaders from the growing Resistance Coalition. The training session paused as all eyes turned to them. "The Talons have sent their elite armada," announced Captain Jin of the Keth. 25 capital ships, including their flagship Eternal Night. They're commanded by Overlord Beck." A ripple of fear passed through the room. Even Park felt it, the name clearly carried. "Wait, who is Overlord Beck?" Kim asked. Jin's opalescent eyes darkened. "The Talon's most ruthless commander. He's never failed to crush a rebellion, never shown mercy." Kim nodded slowly. "Then he's never faced humans before." Later, in the station's Ayo command center, Kim studied the intelligence reports. Screens showed Talon fleet movements, their systematic search patterns as they hunted for the horizon and its allies. "They're being thorough," Kim observed. "They're afraid," said Nari, surprising him. The Alvari had become his unofficial cultural guide to the galaxy. "The Talons rule through fear, Admiral. If people stop fearing them, then they lose everything," Kim finished. "I understand power built on intimidation. Earth went through similar phases in our development." Commander Lee entered carrying data tablets. As the ship's science officer, he'd been studying Talon technology captured during their escape. "Admiral, I've made some interesting discoveries," Lee said, spreading the tablets on the table. "The Talon's technical advantage isn't as overwhelming as everyone believes. Their weapons and shields operate on principles we've known about for generations." "Then why has no one been able to match them?" asked Jin. "Because they've systematically destroyed any civilization that reaches a certain technological threshold," Lee explained. "They've been selectively breeding the galaxy for compliance, not innovation." Kim studied the technical readouts. "And our phase shield? Why couldn't they penetrate it?" "Because it operates on quantum principles they've never encountered." Lee's eyes lit up with academic excitement. "Humans developed along a completely different technological path. We faced different evolutionary pressures on Earth: higher gravity, more radiation, more competitive ecosystem. Our science took different turns." Nari leaned forward. "So your technology isn't necessarily better, just different," Lee confirmed. "Incompatible with their understanding. They can't defeat what they don't comprehend." Over the next weeks, the resistance grew. Word spread about the human ship that couldn't be destroyed and the aliens who had joined them. The horizon became more than a vessel. It became a legend. In a quiet moment, Kim found Engineer Song working alone in the engine room, her hands deep in the phase shield generator. "You should rest," he told her. "You've been working for 20 hours straight." Song didn't look up. "Can't. The shield matrix needs recalibration after that last skirmish." Her fingers moved deftly among the glowing components. "Besides, I'm the only one who really understands how this works." Kim sat beside her, handing her tools as needed. Is that why you volunteered for this mission? To work with the phase shield? I volunteered because my grandmother was from Seoul, she said quietly. She used to tell me stories about living under occupation before Korea was unified, how people survived by adapting, by finding ways to resist that the occupiers couldn't understand. She finally looked up, her eyes tired but clear. I never thought those stories would matter out here among the stars. They matter more than ever, Kim replied. A soft alarm sounded. Kim tapped his communicator. Kim here. Admiral, we've received a transmission. Park's voice came through. From Overlord Beck himself. He's requesting to speak with you personally. The command center, Kim faced the largest screen. Overlord Beck appeared human at first glance. White skin, vertical slit pupils, hairless head. But there was something deeply wrong about the way he moved, as if his body was merely a suit worn by something else. Admiral Kim of Earth, Beck said, his voice unnaturally smooth. You've caused quite a disruption in my sector. That wasn't our intention, Kim replied calmly. We were exploring. And now you're leading a rebellion. Beck's expression remained fixed, unblinking. Curious behavior for explorers. We intervened when we witnessed mass murder. Any decent species would do the same. Beck tilted his head slightly, the gesture somehow reptilian. Decency is a luxury of the powerful, Admiral. A story they tell themselves to justify their dominance. His eyes narrowed. We've studied your vessel. Remarkable shielding technology, but not perfect. Nothing is. The screen shifted to show a planet Kim didn't recognize. Blue-green, cloud-swirled, beautiful. This is Valar 3, Beck continued. Population approximately 4 billion. They harbor resistance sympathizers. The view zoomed in to show massive Talon weapons platforms moving into position around the planet. Surrender your vessel and all technical data or watch another world burn. The transmission ended. The command center remained silent. He'll do it, Jin said finally. The Talons have destroyed planets before to make examples. Kim stared at the blank screen. How long until those platforms are fully deployed? 48 hours, Lee calculated. Maybe less. Then we have 48 hours to find a solution. Kim turned to face the assembled resistance leaders. I need every ship, every fighter, every scrap of intelligence you have on Talon weapon systems. Nari stepped forward. Admiral, even with all our combined forces, we can't defeat their entire armada. We don't need to defeat their entire armada, Kim replied. We just need to defeat Overlord Beck. The Talons rule through fear, so let's give them something to fear. He pulled up the tactical display, highlighting the massive Talon flagship. Han Park, I want assault team training doubled. Lee, work with Song on maximizing shield efficiency. Jin, we'll need your fastest ships for the approach. As the command center burst into activity, Kim studied the image of the Talon flagship. Humans had been fighting against overwhelming odds throughout their history. They'd learned to be resourceful, adaptive, unpredictable. You're right, Overlord, he murmured to the empty screen. Our shield isn't perfect, but neither is yours. Their plan was simple, but dangerous. While the resistance fleet engaged the Talon armada near Valar 3, drawing their attention, a smaller team would infiltrate Overlord Beck's flagship to disable the planetary weapon platforms.
Admiral Kim had volunteered to lead the mission himself despite objections from his crew. With respect, sir, you're too valuable to risk, Commander Han had argued during the final briefing. Kim had simply shaken his head. This was our fight.
From the moment we intervened, I won't ask anyone to take risks I'm not willing to take myself. Now, crouched in the dimly lit service corridor of the eternal night, Kim questioned the wisdom of his decision. Beside him, Lieutenant Park checked her scanner, while Engineer Song worked on bypassing the security system. Captain Jin and 2 of his Keth fighters guarded their rear. How much longer? Kim whispered. Song didn't look up from the alien circuitry. 3 minutes, Their systems are complex but follow logical patterns, almost there. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing an empty chamber filled with glowing control panels. Secondary weapons control, Park confirmed, consulting her stolen schematics. The main planetary targeting systems should be 2 levels up. They moved carefully through the massive ship. The eternal night was eerily quiet. Most of the crew focused on the battle raging outside. Through occasional viewport windows, Kim glimpsed the chaotic firefight. The resistance fleet, though outnumbered, fought with unexpected coordination and courage. "Admiral," Jin whispered, pointing ahead. "Guards." 2 Talon sentries stood before a large doorway, their posture rigid. The team ducked back around a corner. "We need a distraction," Kim said. Jin nodded. "My people are good at distractions." He pulled a small device from his belt. "Cover your ears." The sonic disruptor sent the guards crumpling to the floor, clutching their heads. The team rushed forward, dragging the unconscious Talons into a storage alcove. The weapon control room was vast, a cathedral to destruction. Circular platforms rose from the floor, each hosting terminals where white-skinned Talon officers worked. At the center stood a massive holographic display of Velar 3 with targeting vectors spidering across its surface. "Final preparations are complete, Overlord," announced a Talon officer. "Planetary bombardment can commence on your command." Kim's heart froze as Overlord Beck himself entered the chamber, moving with that same unnatural grace. Unlike the other Talons whose expressions remained neutral, Beck's face bore a faint smile. "Excellent," Beck replied. "Begin the firing sequence." From their hiding place behind a support column, Kim exchanged glances with his team. They were out of time. "Song," he whispered. "The phase shield disruptor?" She patted the device strapped to her back. "Ready, sir, but I need to get closer to their central terminals." "Jin, Park, create a diversion on the far side. Song and I will move toward the central platform." They split up, moving silently through the shadows beneath the platforms. Jin and Park planted small explosive charges on power conduits, then retreated to a safe distance. The first explosion sent Talon officers scrambling. Security alerts blared. As attention turned toward the disturbance, Kim and Song darted forward, reaching the base of the central platform. "Cover me," Song said, unslinging the disruptor device. But before she could activate it, a cold voice cut through the chaos. "I was wondering when you would arrive, Admiral." Overlord Beck stood above them, looking down with those unblinking, vertical-slit eyes. He made a casual gesture, and security forces surrounded them, weapons ready. "Your distraction was crude, but effective," Beck continued. "Unfortunately, I anticipated your move. Your resistance fleet is being decimated as we speak, and your famous ship, the Horizon, is taking heavy damage." Kim's communicator crackled to life. "Admiral," it was, "Commander Lee on the Horizon. We've lost forward shields. Engine core is critical." Beck smiled that strange, wrong smile. "You see? The legend ends today. Your ship will be destroyed, your crew captured for study, and Valar Thur will burn as an example to all who defied us." Kim felt a moment of despair. Then he noticed something odd. Engineer Song wasn't looking defeated. Instead, she was checking her timepiece with surprising calm. "You're right about one thing, Overlord," Kim said, buying time. "This does end today." Beck tilted his head. Brave words from a defeated enemy. "Not defeated," Kim replied, "just adapting." The lights throughout the chamber suddenly flickered. The holographic display of Valar 3 wavered and disappeared. Emergency alarms began to sound. "What is happening?" Beck demanded as Talon officers rushed to their terminals. "System breach in progress," one reported. "Something is accessing our core protocols." "Impossible," Beck snapped. "Our systems are isolated," Song smiled up at Kim. "Not anymore." While the infiltration team had served as a distraction, the real attack had been digital. During their previous encounters, Commander Lee had discovered a vulnerability in Talon communication protocols. While their weapons technology was advanced, their network security was designed to repel external attacks, not internal ones. The infiltration program should be reaching their weapons control now. Song whispered. As if on cue, the weapon platforms around Valar Thuri began to power down. On screens throughout the chamber, targeting systems failed. Beck's composed facade cracked. "Kill them," he ordered the security team. But the guards hesitated, distracted by new alarms. Throughout the massive flagship, systems were failing. Life, support fluctuating, gravity destabilizing, doors opening and closing at random. "What did you do?" Beck demanded, his voice rising for the first time. Kim met his gaze. "We introduced your systems to something they've never encountered before. A human virus, not designed to destroy but to reveal. On every screen and holographic display throughout the ship, images began to appear, recordings from Talon archives, showing the brutal suppression of peaceful worlds, the slaughter of civilians, the destruction of cultural treasures, and most, damning of all, recordings of the Talon leadership discussing their strategy of rule through terror. These broadcasts are being transmitted on all frequencies," Song explained quietly. "To every ship in your fleet, to every planet in your empire, even to your homeworld." Beck's face contorted with rage. "You think this matters? The galaxy fears us too much to—" "Fear only works when people have no hope," Kim interrupted. "You've ruled through fear for centuries because no one believed resistance was possible." He gestured around them. That just changed. Throughout the ship they could hear sounds of confusion, and in some sections the unmistakable noise of conflict. Not all Talons, it seemed, had known the truth about their empire. Beck lunged forward suddenly, a hidden blade extending from his wrist. Kim barely had time to react before the Overlord was upon him, blade slashing toward his throat. The blow never landed. Jin appeared from nowhere, intercepting Beck with impossible speed. The two crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs. "Go," Jin shouted, struggling with the stronger Talon. "Complete the mission." Song pulled Kim toward the central terminal. "The phase shield technology, we can upload it to the resistance fleet." As they worked, the battle inside and outside the flagship intensified. The resistance forces, emboldened by the Talon confusion, pressed their advantage. Throughout the sector, subject worlds were receiving the broadcasts, seeing the truth about their oppressors for the first time. 300 years of carefully maintained fear was unraveling in minutes. "It's done," Song announced, removing her device from the terminal. "Every resistance ship now has the phase shield specifications." Kim helped her to her feet. "Then let's get out of here." They gathered their scattered team, Park sporting a laser burn on her arm, Jin limping but alive. Of Overlord Beck, there was no sign. "He escaped during the confusion," Jin explained. "But it doesn't matter now. His power was built on fear and secrets. Both are gone." As they made their way to the extraction point, Kim's communicator came to life again. "Admiral," Lee's voice was filled with wonder. "You need to see this." Throughout the sector, the unthinkable was happening. Talon ships were standing down. On some vessels, crews had mutinied against officers still loyal to the old regime. Others, commanders, had simply recognized the changing tide and surrendered. 3 centuries of tyranny were breaking apart like ice in spring. 6 months after the Battle of Valar III, Admiral Kim stood by the observation window in the horizon's newly rebuilt bridge. The ship had been badly damaged during the final confrontation, but, like the rebellion itself, had survived against all odds. Beyond the viewport stretched the massive orbital shipyards of Keth Prime, where dozens of vessels were being retrofitted with phase shield technology. "Penny for your thoughts, Admiral?" asked Commander Lee, joining him at the window. Kim smiled. "Just thinking about how differently this mission turned out from what we expected. We left Earth looking for scientific discoveries. Instead, we found a war. And ended one," Lee reminded him. "The Galactic Council meets for the first time tomorrow. That wouldn't have happened without the horizon." The door hissed open and Lieutenant Park entered, looking more formal than Kim had ever seen her in a freshly pressed uniform. "The delegates from the Talon reformed territories have arrived," she announced. "They're requesting permission to come aboard." Kim nodded. "Escort them to the conference room. I'll be there shortly." As Park left, Kim took a final look at the ships under construction. Each incorporated human phase shield designs freely shared with former resistance allies, not as a weapon but as protection. That had been his one non-negotiable condition when the fighting ended. The conference room had been expanded to accommodate the diverse physiology of their guests. Tall, mantis-like Vosians stood beside stocky blue Keth warriors. Copper-skinned, Alvari sat with amphibious Moran delegates, while representatives from a dozen other species found spaces suited to their needs. And at the far end, looking uncomfortable and out of place, stood 3 Talons. The room fell silent as Kim entered. Even months later, he wasn't used to the way people looked at him, with something between respect and awe. He was just a man who'd made a decision anyone would make when faced with injustice. At least, that's what he told himself. "Welcome aboard the Horizon," he began simply. "Tomorrow, you'll all make history when you sign the accord establishing the first truly democratic Galactic Council. But today, I wanted us to meet informally, to remember what brought us here." Nari, now the lead representative of the Alvari, spoke first. "We are here because one ship refused to look away, because humans chose to stand against something they could have easily avoided." The tallest Talon stepped forward. Unlike Overlord Beck, whose whereabouts remained unknown, this Talon's face showed genuine emotion, discomfort, and perhaps shame. "We are here," she said in a soft voice, "because centuries of lies were finally exposed. Many of my people never knew the true nature of our empire. The broadcast from your ship showed us what our leaders had hidden, that our prosperity was built on the suffering of others." The Talon Civil War had been brief, but brutal. Younger, reform-minded factions had quickly overthrown the old leadership, but rebuilding trust with former subject worlds would take generations. "Where do we go from here?" asked a Vosian delegate, their compound eyes reflecting the room's light in faceted patterns. The Talons still possessed technological advantages. "How can we be sure balance will be maintained?" Engineer Song, who had been quietly standing near the rear of the room, stepped forward. She placed a data cube on the central table. "This contains the complete technical specifications for the Horizon," she said. "Not just the phase shield, but every system, every innovation that allowed a single Earth ship to change the balance of power in this galaxy." Murmurs spread through the room. The Talons looked particularly shocked. "You're giving away your advantage?" one asked incredulously. Kim shook his head. "We're eliminating advantages. The phase shield worked because it was different, not because it was superior. We believe true security comes from cooperation, not domination." He moved to the center of the room, looking at each delegation in turn. "Earth is new to this galaxy. We don't want to replace one ruling power with another. We've learned from our own bloody history that peace built on fear always fails. True peace comes from mutual benefit, from systems where everyone prospers together." Captain Jin of the Keth nodded slowly. "This is why the human approach defeated the Talons when all others failed. You didn't try to match their weapons. You changed the nature of the conflict." The conference continued late into the night. Former enemies cautiously became colleagues, perhaps someday friends. Plans were made, compromises reached, old wounds acknowledged, if not fully healed. When the last delegates had departed, Kim found himself alone on the observation deck with Park and Song watching the stars. Beyond the shipyards lay open space, and somewhere out there, Earth. "Command has sent new orders," Park said, breaking the silence. "Once the council is established, we're to continue our original mission of exploration." Song looked up. "Really? After everything that's happened, they still want us out here?" "More than ever," Kim replied. "Earth needs to understand this galaxy better if we're going to be good neighbors." He smiled faintly. "Besides, I think we've had enough war for a while." The door opened and Han entered carrying a bottle and glasses. "Thought you might be here. The Keth ambassador gave me this. Some kind of ceremonial drink for moments of transition. Seemed appropriate." They gathered around a small table as Han poured 4 glasses of shimmering blue liquid. "To the Horizon," Han proposed, raising his glass. "To peace," added Park. To new beginnings, said Song. Kim looked at his crew, his friends, and raised his own glass. To the impossible. May we never stop believing in it. The next morning, representatives from 47 formerly subjugated species gathered, with reformed Talon delegates in the Great Hall of Keth Prime. The Galactic Accord was signed, establishing equal representation, shared defense responsibilities, and open exchange of knowledge and resources. Admiral Kim watched from the side of the stage, content to let others take the spotlight. The Horizon's role was done. They had arrived as strangers and changed everything, not through superior firepower, but through the one thing the Talons hadn't counted on, the human capacity to inspire others. A small Alvari child approached, him holding something in her four-fingered hands. She offered it shyly, a drawing showing the horizon surrounded by stars. My grandmother was on Valar III, she said in carefully practiced human language. She says I'm alive because of your ship. Kim knelt to accept the drawing. It wasn't just our ship, it was everyone who found the courage to stand together. The child considered this, then nodded solemnly. Will you stay in our galaxy? For a while, Kim answered. There's still much to explore. Good, she said decisively. The stars are less scary now that you're here. As the ceremony concluded, Kim joined his crew at the landing bay where the shuttle waited to return them to the horizon. Commander Lee studied the star charts for their next mission, while Park and Han good-naturedly argued about the best route. Song was already making notes about engine modifications for the long journey ahead. Kim paused at the shuttle door, taking a final look at the gathered delegates, former enemies now cautiously united. A galaxy that had lived in fear for centuries was taking its first uncertain steps toward something better. Everything all right, Admiral? Asked Han, noticing his hesitation. Kim nodded. Just thinking that when we left Earth, we were hoping to make some small discovery that might help humanity. And instead, prompted Han. Kim smiled as he stepped into the shuttle. Instead, we remembered what humanity is capable of at its best, and maybe that was the most important discovery of all. The shuttle lifted off, returning to the battle-scarred but proud vessel that had changed the fate of a galaxy. The Horizon's journey wasn't ending. It was just beginning.